The air was heavy with humidity, the kind that clung to your skin and refused to let go. Ethan Kepler, an exoplanetary researcher stranded on an alien world, paused to catch his breath at the edge of the dense jungle. His oxygen monitor blinked steadily, a silent reminder of the finite supply left in his suit. The planet, labeled CX-47 by his expedition team before disaster struck, was unlike anything Ethan had imagined. Verdant trees with sapphire leaves towered above him, their branches swaying with a rhythm dictated by an unseen force. He had spent months scavenging, adapting, and surviving alone after a malfunction had forced his ship to crash land. Yet today felt different. The strange energy in the air made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. He clutched his plasma knife tighter, scanning the forest for threats. The creatures here, though stunning, could be deadly. He had learned that lesson the hard way. A sudden commotion interrupted his thoughts, a thrashing noise from the direction of the river. His pulse quickened as he followed the sound, pushing through the dense underbrush until he reached the water's edge. The sight froze him in his tracks. In the raging currents of the river, a creature struggled against the pull of the water. At first glance, it looked feline, sleek and muscular like a leopard, but its features were undeniably alien. Its fur shimmered like liquid metal, bioluminescent patterns flickering across its body in a desperate rhythm. Its elongated limbs clawed at the water, its movements growing weaker by the second. Ethan's instinct screamed at him to walk away. This world was perilous, and risking his life for a creature that might view him as prey was madness. Yet something in the leopard's luminous eyes gave him pause. They weren't the eyes of a beast. They were filled with fear and a glimmer of something else. Intelligence. Desperation. Damn it, Ethan muttered under his breath, dropping his knife and stripping off the heavier parts of his gear. The roar of the river drowned out his thoughts as he dove in. The current hit him like a wall, threatening to sweep him away. Gritting his teeth, he fought against the pull, his arms burning as he swam toward the creature. It was larger than he'd anticipated, its metallic fur slick and cold to the touch. He wrapped an arm around its torso, kicking hard to keep them both afloat. "Come on," he growled, his muscles screaming in protest. Inch by inch, he dragged them toward the shore. The leopard's movements grew more sluggish, its bioluminescence dimming. Ethan wasn't sure who was saving whom at this point. Finally, with one last desperate surge, he hauled them both onto solid ground. The leopard collapsed beside him, its chest heaving. Ethan rolled onto his back, gasping for air as the adrenaline began to fade. For a moment, neither of them moved. The jungle seemed to hold its breath, the usual cacophony of alien wildlife replaced by an eerie silence. Ethan turned his head to look at the creature. It was watching him, its glowing eyes locked onto his with an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. "You're welcome," he said dryly, breaking the silence. The leopard blinked, its bioluminescence flaring briefly in what almost seemed like acknowledgement. Ethan frowned. It was probably just a trick of the light, he told himself. But as he sat up and took a closer look at the creature, a nagging feeling began to take root in his gut. There was something strange, something off about this leopard. Ethan didn't know it yet, but his life had just taken a turn he could never have anticipated. The leopard stirred as dawn's faint light filtered through the canopy. Ethan had spent the night beside the creature, cautiously tending to its wounds with the limited medical supplies in his pack. Its breathing had steadied, and its bioluminescent spots now pulsed softly, almost rhythmically, like a heartbeat. As Ethan watched, the creature's eyes opened. They weren't the predatory eyes of an animal, but something far more aware. The leopard shifted slightly, testing its strength, then fixed its gaze on Ethan. A chill ran down his spine. "Easy," Ethan said, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "I'm not your enemy." The leopard didn't move, its glowing gaze never wavering. Slowly, it tilted its head, as if studying him. Ethan felt an odd pressure in his mind, faint at first but growing stronger, like the ghost of a whisper he couldn't quite make out. "Am I going crazy?" he muttered, rubbing his temples. The pressure faded, and the leopard blinked. Ethan shook off the unease and busied himself, checking the makeshift camp. He had placed the creature on a patch of soft moss near a small fire, and a few scavenged fruits lay nearby. He wasn't sure if the alien leopard would eat them, or eat him, but it was the best he could manage. To his surprise, the leopard didn't touch the food. Instead, it rose shakily to its feet and approached Ethan. It moved with a fluid grace that belied its earlier exhaustion. Ethan tensed, ready to defend himself, but the creature stopped a few feet away, lowering its head in what looked like a deliberate gesture. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice wary. The leopard's bioluminescence flared briefly, the patterns on its fur shifting in waves of blue and gold. Ethan stared, fascinated. Was it trying to communicate? Moments later, the odd pressure returned, this time stronger. Ethan gasped as a vivid image flashed in his mind. A vast, glittering city, its spires stretching toward the sky. The image was gone as quickly as it had appeared, leaving him disoriented. "What the hell was that?" he demanded, stepping back. The leopard made no move to follow, but its glowing patterns shifted again, more frantic this time. Another image forced its way into his mind, a vessel engulfed in flames, hurtling toward a planet's surface. Ethan staggered, clutching his head. "You're showing me this," he whispered, staring at the creature. The leopard blinked, its bioluminescence settling into a steady rhythm. It took a cautious step closer, its gaze imploring. Ethan felt his fear give way to curiosity. This wasn't just an animal. It was something far more intelligent, something trying to bridge the gap between their worlds. Over the next few hours, their bond deepened. The leopard projected more images into Ethan's mind, fragments of its story. It had come from a distant world, one ravaged by war. The burning vessel he'd seen in his vision had been an escape pod, its trajectory gone awry. The river that nearly claimed its life had been the final stop in a desperate journey. Ethan tried to respond, speaking aloud and gesturing, but the leopard didn't seem to understand. Instead, it used its glowing patterns and the strange mental connection to guide him. By nightfall, Ethan had pieced together enough to realize the creature wasn't just intelligent, it was sentient. "You need help," he said quietly, sitting beside it. "But I don't know how to give it." The leopard rested its head on its paws, its glowing spots dimming. Ethan felt a pang of guilt. He had no idea what to do next, but one thing was clear. This creature wasn't just a survivor, it was a refugee. And if its visions were any indication, its presence on this planet was no accident. As the stars began to shimmer above, Ethan looked out at the jungle. Something told him their story was only just beginning. Ethan woke to the sound of distant howls echoing through the jungle. The alien leopard stood alert, its bioluminescent patterns flickering in sharp, erratic bursts. Ethan sat up, his hand instinctively reaching for his plasma knife. "What is it now?" he whispered, scanning the darkened tree-line. The leopard turned to him, its glowing eyes filled with urgency. The familiar pressure returned to his mind, followed by a series of fragmented images. Shadowy forms stalking through the jungle, glowing eyes that mirrored its own, and a deep, resonating sound that felt like an alarm. "They're coming for you," Ethan muttered, piecing the visions together. The leopard gave a low, rumbling growl and stepped toward him, its movements deliberate. Another image flooded Ethan's mind, a faintly glowing artifact buried beneath a tree with twisting silver roots. The message was clear. It needed to retrieve this object, and fast. "All right," Ethan said, rising to his feet. "Lead the way." The leopard moved with purpose, its sleek form weaving through the dense underbrush. Ethan followed, gripping his knife tightly as he kept a wary eye on the shadows. The jungle seemed alive with tension, every sound amplified in the oppressive silence. After what felt like an eternity, they reached the tree from the vision. Its silver roots twisted into the ground like a coiled serpent. The leopard began clawing at the earth with surprising ferocity, its glowing patterns shifting into a blinding white. Ethan crouched beside it, using his knife to help dig. Minutes later, their efforts revealed a small, crystalline device pulsating faintly with light. Ethan stared at it, mesmerized. "What is this?" he asked, though he knew the leopard couldn't answer. The creature nudged the device toward him, its bioluminescence calming into steady, gentle waves. As Ethan hesitated, another image filled his mind, a vision of the device activating, emitting a powerful signal that stretched far beyond the planet's atmosphere. A distress beacon, Ethan murmured, realization dawning. This is how you call for help. Before he could celebrate the discovery, the jungle erupted in chaos. The howls grew louder, closer, and a pair of glowing eyes emerged from the darkness. Then another, and another. Not good, Ethan muttered, gripping the device tightly. The leopard stepped between him and the approaching predators, its body low to the ground, teeth bared. Its bioluminescence flared in brilliant patterns, challenging the intruders. Ethan felt a wave of defiance emanate from the creature, bolstering his own courage. "I'm not leaving you," Ethan said, standing shoulder to shoulder with the leopard. The predators lunged, their sleek, shadowy forms streaking toward them. Ethan fought with everything he had, his plasma knife flashing in the dim light. The leopard moved like a force of nature, its claws and fangs tearing through their attackers with a precision that was almost surgical. After what felt like an eternity, the remaining predators retreated into the jungle, their howls fading into the night. Ethan collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. The leopard, though battered and bloodied, remained standing, its glowing patterns dim but steady. Ethan held up the device. "We need to activate this, don't we?" The leopard gazed at him, its eyes filled with something Ethan could only describe as trust. Slowly, it nodded, a deliberate, human-like gesture that left Ethan speechless. With trembling hands, Ethan pressed the activation panel. The device hummed to life, emitting a brilliant beam of light that pierced the canopy and shot into the sky. For a moment, everything was silent. Then a faint, distant hum reached Ethan's ears, growing louder by the second. He looked at the leopard. "Help is on the way, isn't it?" The creature's bioluminescence flared in bright, rhythmic pulses, an unmistakable yes. As the hum grew into a roar, the jungle lit up with the glow of descending lights. Ethan's heart raced, both with fear and hope. Whatever came next, he knew his life would never be the same.